Yeah. All right. I think it's going, Chase.
Sweet. Now we're cooking with some grease.
This is grease. I actually have been cooking with a lot of grease recently, frankly, honestly.
Like, what do you mean? So, like,
Like
grease as in, like,
tallow. Like I've been saving bacon fat, chicken fat,
nice.
things like that, and I've been
Nice.
using that as opposed to just like butter. I don't know. I've been liking it a lot.
Dude, it's, the primitive way.
It is, yeah, it is the primitive way. But I have like 4 weird glass Tupperware containers in my fridge that just have fat in them now. So I don't know. It looks
Yeah, I
it
think,
looks a little janky, but it's worth it. I think.
like, we need to go get, like, me and Phoebe have thought of this idea because usually what happens is, like, she'll cook bacon in, like, in the air fryer, and it's kind of is a nice, convenient way of not starting a grease fire, and it kind of contains all the grease in that little air fryer.
Hmm.
We want to kind of start doing that, but we just don't want to spend money like on old shitty coffee, so we can have like like the coffee can.
How are you relating the? Oh, you want the coffee can for the grease?
Yeah, I don't care
That's a
about the
lot of
coffee.
grease, man. How much bacon are you using?
I mean, we cook bacon about every single day.
Seriously? It's a
Hmm.
daily thing?
Yep.
No, thanks, sweetie. I'm fine. Sorry, my wife popped in.
Was that a
Um,
was that a dog bowl?
it was a stainless steel mixing bowl filled with
Uh huh.
popcorn because
Yeah,
that's what you need for a stream is popcorn.
that was your
I think
dog
Eric's
food
here.
bowl.
How's it going, Eric? Eric's training is interesting, man. He's dealing with this either like shoulder pathology or cervical disc issue, which makes like higher rep bench sets and sometimes squatting have him like a lot of arm and shoulder issues. We've been trying to work through it, um, but like it's an interesting one. It's not super
What's
common,
the
I would
pain
say.
like? Is it just like radiating numbness?
Well, ask him, Eric. Yeah, if you're here, Eric, yeah,
Yo,
try and
Eric,
describe
yeah,
that
in
to
the
him.
chat, man.
Um,
Tell me rather, what's happening with your shoulder?
But yeah, we have a few, we got 2 questions from last time. Stephen Louis is back. That's an important thing. It's not necessarily a question, but it is important. We have a 225 press to check out. We should talk about seeing a physical therapist. One of my, actually, a few of my clients, Jason and I were talking about that last week, have been dealing with that. They want to go see a physical therapist for things, or they want to see their doctor. When is an appropriate time to do that? Benching, why even cervical disc problems? I have an issue like this. I think Eric may. Some of my other clients do. People whose necks have been beat up in the past. One thing I want to talk about, which was a question that came in, was determining goals in a training block or determining your mesocycle length, and then balancing recovery with sport. Someone dropped some comments on some of the last few videos talking about how Chase and I do that. Chase, do you want to start with any of these in particular, or do you want to hop right into form checks?
Um, let's just go with like number 5, determining goals and stuff, because I
Ooh,
feel like
okay.
that just pops out to me. This is kind of based on the subject, right? So you, the lifter, whatever you're training for, by this time you should be out of the novice linear program because basically your goals at that point is just adding weight to the bar, or adding body weight to,
Hmm.
getting as strong as possible. After that, it's what am I now training for? Is it still strength? Okay, then I have to progress with adding weight on this bar. Is it now I got to go into BJJ and I got to get my next belt? Then we have to now train for that. So once you kind of narrow and put your blinders on for that one specific goal in this little training block, you have to do the variables that best suit to obtain that goal, whether it be again stronger, more conditioned, um, a mental, acuity increase, something of that sense. Um, and basically, what you're going to do is just manipulate the variables that are in like practical programming, exercise selection, load, reps and sets, intensity, all the stuff that we normally talk about.
Hmm. So we have Johnny G and Jeff Riggins in the past, or in the chat, excuse me. He said, "Hey fellas and hi pals." Hello to everyone in the chat. Um, I've started calling people pal more in my daily life. I feel like
Hey, pal, I don't think I've ever.
not like PayPal, but like
I
I
said,
feel like
hey,
these.
pal,
Okay, I feel like the
not
term
PayPal.
pal, pal has come back into my vernacular. I think it's probably Jeff Green's fault. Um, but yeah, so it's an interesting thing, and I think determining your kind of like, hey, how much weight can I put on my XYZ lifts across a training? Oh, here we go. Hey, buddy and friends. Yeah, I don't know. How many other words do we have for these things that are convenient in the common lexicon? Um, This is something that experience can dictate. Like Chase can probably see a lifter for a week who's like an intermediate trainee, and then that guy can probably say, "Hey, how much do you think I can expect to gain over the next 12 weeks?" You know, with enough experience, you can eyeball that pretty well. You can say, okay, like depending on how like you've been trending across these past few weeks, we can say this is what's reasonable over the next 12. That's kind of an experience thing, and it's going to depend on what your rate of increase has been so far, what your historical training block length has been. Like, can you manage a 12-week block? Can you manage an 8-week block only before you feel too beat up? Things like that. Howdy, partners. Alex Jirac, I think that's a new one. Jirac. Hopefully that's not French, man. I don't know what last name Jirak would be. Chase?
I have no idea. I was
I don't know
thinking
what
maybe
that
like
is.
Middle Eastern
Oh, that's
or
true. That could be. Yes, could be from
um,
Morocco. But yeah, so in terms of training block length, you can kind of think, how long can I sustain any increase for until I will need a deload or a significant programming change? Because basically, at the start of a training block, things start out a little bit easier, and then they get progressively harder and harder and harder. You may manipulate volume sets and reps across this time, but more or less, you're basically just increasing intensity across the training block until you get to that point where fatigue gets too high and performance gets too low. And then we know that we need to reset from there. That generally marks the end of the training block. Depending on how advanced you are, like Chase, for example, Chase, how much do you think you could gain on, like, let's say, like a deadlift over a 12-week block?
man, maybe 5 or 10 pounds.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe 5 or 10 pounds. Someone who's pulling 405 and then they're like, oh, I wonder how much I can get on 12 weeks. That could be 20 pounds. It could be 25,
Yeah.
could be 30. Chase is like at the tail end of strength progression. So he'll be fighting for one PR across that entire time. If you are still immature enough with weightlifting that you can set a bunch of PRs continually across the block, I wouldn't worry so much about the specific rate of gain, like where should I be at the end of my training block. I would worry about how to make that as sustainable as possible.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, like since everyone in here is infatuated with barbells and getting stronger, don't let that also take away from your goal. And also the vice versa, where like if conditioning is the main aspect, don't let your strength lag behind because it always helps to be stronger than the person that you're going against, or just being the strongest in your weight class too.
hmm Yeah, and the same thing with like movement selection. Like if you're super married to one movement, if you're like, I need to have rack pulls in, but every time you do rack pulls, it's just not worth the fatigue cost. You feel like you have the flu for 3 days because you're so beat up.
Yeah.
Like, don't put rack pulls in. Put a lighter variation in. Remember, you're trying to create that sustainability in training, not get a specific thing. Um, yeah, I guess we'll start with some form checks. We'll start with number one, Quattro's 225 press. We'll get this up on the screen here. So I think Quattro here. Can you guys see this?
No, man, it's a black screen.
Are you for real? All right, hold on one second. We're going to VLC Media Player, boys. But yeah, Kenneth is at one of the starting strength gyms. I'm not entirely sure which one it is. Do you know? Does this look familiar to you?
Um, Man, it kind of does. It kind of looks like Houston, but I don't know. It
Okay,
may
well, I
be.
think they're the same in every single one, so I'm not sure.
I know it's hard, but the
Yeah.
plates are different though. So if you see like these Rogue ones,
Yeah.
these are from the OG original, like first 3 or 4
Okay.
starting strength gyms. So
Good
maybe he's
detective
in
work.
Denver. I don't know.
All right, so this is Mr. Quattro pressing 225 for a single. How are you feeling about this single, Chase?
It's not bad. I would like to see a quicker takeout. So he's kind of stumbling with his steps. What I tell people is that, especially on these heavy singles, and this really isn't that heavy, but as he gets heavier with these, there's going to be a sense of urgency. You do not want to waste too much time taking the bar out, trying to get your setup on a heavy ass single. And that's for all the lifts. You just want to take this thing out
One,
in maybe a
two.
one step, and then it's the hips and press. So I think of this as like a timing issue and a sequence. So
Do you
it's
think he's
one
being late or do you think he's being early? What do you think? Which one do you mean?
right there. He's a little bit late on the press.
Okay, he's using late on the press. Okay.
But to kind of talk about what I was saying earlier was the sequence that you have to kind of build here is try to do this all in one breath. So take one breath, one step, hips, and then that usually kind of cuts out a lot of the um, troublesome areas that you're dealing with in these press singles.
I think you're being a little bit too eager about the layback. I think. I noticed that some people are very willing to get into it as opposed to just kind of like letting
Hmm.
it be a byproduct of, the weight pushing you down. I would still try to bounce my chest back up. I wouldn't just accept the layback. I think that'll just help you with rigidity overall. Yeah, Sinclair 225 is certainly a good press, but for a guy who is this height and measurements, like if you look at the muscularity on him, he has more in him for
Oh
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, like my historic best press single was 210 or 215 at like 165. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I have no muscle in my body at all. Chase has pressed 1,000,000 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this guy has some fucking some pythons on him. He'll be able to increase.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But he does have the jacked guy head going on, though. It's very bald. It is very red. Chase, do you think you're going to go bald at some point?
I hope not. I think
Do you think you could pull it off if you did?
so. One of my grandparents or my grandfather, he's bald, but he has like the side hair and the back hair, not the top. So he has like a flesh yarmulke. And then the other
He
one,
has the monk cut. It just goes straight down
yeah,
the. Okay.
the other one has like a full hair of white head or
Okay.
full head of white hair.
This is Stephen Louis. We have not. The Stephen Louis disappeared for a little bit. He was squatting in his basement. Do you remember that video of him bailing under the squat and then being like
Yeah, with like
thrown
the
backward?
sawhorses and shit.
Yeah, he was thrown backwards at like 20 miles an hour. He was just so tight. Once the bar popped off him, he just shot backwards. So he's in a gym now, and this looks like 4 plates and some change. Yes, we got 415. Yeah, Johnny G, are you bald, man? Never thought I'd go bald, but yeah, I think the implication is he is. I'm sorry for your loss, brother. I'm sorry for your loss. I don't think I'll go bald. My mom is balding more than my dad is, which is interesting.
Man, that's fucked up.
It is. I think it's just stress. She's just high strung lady.
Mm.
Yeah, just from having bad children. I think that's what it is. Okay. How are you feeling about these squats, Chase?
So I think just Steven's getting loose in the bottom and it's kind of causing some sag in his form, meaning like he's drifting around a little bit. He's kind of getting off the midfoot balance point. His elbows are teeter tottering up and down. They're not really fixated, in the bar positions a little bit wonky on him. To tighten this up, let's see if we can't bring in his grip a little bit, and then not pausing right there at the bottom, thinking about a nice solid bounce, and this should kind of sort itself out.
Yeah, his depth is all wonky. Let's watch it on rep one. That's as deep as he gets on rep one. I think I'm a frame late, but that's as deep as he gets on rep one. And then we'll
Hmm.
compare this to a little bit later on. I think everybody in our chat, everyone is in bald. Everyone apparently is what we're learning. Yeah, so he gets progressively deeper. So I would definitely say a little more confidence on rep one. Let yourself get deeper.
I was gonna say too, on rep one, like he's still like an inch forward. See, like right there, maybe just a little bit off. And that was him kind of jacking up his chest to get back into the midfoot. Granted, this isn't probably the best camera angle,
Mm-hmm.
but to us, or rather me, this looks a little bit forward.
Yeah, so the head is up, the nose is straight ahead at this point. Yeah, so the interesting thing, let's watch the end of the barbell, and we'll see what happens with this one. But like Chase was saying earlier, there's a lot of forward and backwards rock in this, and I think that
Mhm.
always comes to people trying to figure out what depth is. If I had to bet, I think this stance is too narrow. That was the thing with his squats before when we had different camera angles, and I'm guessing that trend is still here now. Yeah, so it's right here in particular. So when he comes out of the hole, when you're about halfway up, as opposed to keeping your nose down and driving with your hips, you're still trying to drive with the chest and then the nose up, and then the whole thing kind of has to rock backwards. We'll see it here. Whoop. Do you see that, Chase?
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing that you want to avoid, Steve. Sinclair, I used to squat exactly like this, fearing the weight, fearing the depth. It's a wide grip. Yeah. Steve's just a giant man as well. So like it's
Mhm.
hard to take very narrow grips with someone who's that large. Does it look like Steve has lost some weight, or is this just the first time we've seen him in a t-shirt and not in a hoodie?
I don't know, man. He still looks about the same.
Okay. I'm digging the chain, though. He's wearing gold chain while squatting
How can you
425.
see
That's
that? I
pretty good.
can't see shit, I guess.
Oh, Steve's here. Nice. Steve, have you been losing some weight? Let me know. I feel like my eyes are off. Maybe I need to go get some lazy. Chaser, whenever you're seeing videos, are you still seeing them choppy? What's the frame rate like on your end?
They're moving fine.
Okay, all right, cool. We have MJ, MJ of the DC here, and I guess after this we'll do some more questions. We had another one of those come in. Oh, I knew it.
Damn. Okay. Well,
Haven't seen you in weeks. Yeah, down from 280 to 265. Maybe that's just his overhead press. His overhead press
man,
dropped
due to
15
that much weight
pounds.
loss, that could be throwing his squat off too.
Have you ever had any sort of rapid fluctuation in weight gain or loss, Chase? Have you ever dealt with that personally?
Mm-mm.
Okay. When you have clients, how do you normally deal with that? Is that something that's really noticeable?
I haven't even have clients that have done that.
Okay.
Mainly it's just not eating prior to the session.
I mean more like people who have dealt with like the shape of their body changing recently.
Yeah, I haven't really had anyone do
Okay.
extreme weight loss or anything like
Yeah,
that.
I've had one guy who was done a significant amount. He was also starting around where Steven was, and he dropped down to like 230 real fast. But he was
Mhm.
still so new that I didn't think it mattered. You know, like he was still learning how to do everything, anyways. Um, but I always wonder, like, if you take a very experienced or advanced lifter and then you put them through that same thing, how that changes it. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah, interested to hear your take, Steve. So this is MJ. One of the few times you see MJ without a mask as well. He's going in raw today. Oh, we got NoFap Gamer here. NoFap Gamer G. Try drinking Kratom. What's your experience with Kratom, NoFap Gamer? I've heard very mixed things about it.
What the hell is kratom?
It's like a man. I feel like I'm going to say something incorrect here. But it's kind of like how CBD oil is used by people who used to smoke a bunch of weed, and they're like, "Oh no, it's totally good for you now." Like I found a
Mm,
reason for this to be part of my life. It's kind of like people who went from like smoking to vaping. The weed people went from weed to CBD. I feel like the opiate people, like the other pain med, kind of the weed people went to kratom. He says
mm.
kratom rules. It's a miracle drug. Great pre-workout. I have no idea if it's some sort of like light opiate, if it's some sort of like very light pain medication. I have absolutely no idea about it. I'll look
Mm.
it up though after this. Have you been checking out MJ's single here?
Yeah, off the floor, man, it looks pretty good. He just kind of gets into a predicament around his knees. And what I
Okay.
mean by that is he's not really finishing pushing through the floor. His setup it seems good. I don't think he's too far away or too close. He just needs a little bit more back extension and finishing hard with the feet, like I said earlier.
Yeah, so you're saying his knees are staying bent for too long?
Hmm. See,
Okay,
I kind of
gotcha.
like rebend a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, so we'll try and get to that mid shin point right here. Yeah, so he's basically had it up to here. He's almost at the top of his socks, and he hasn't really changed his shin angle too much.
Hmm.
Um, I believe, let me know if I'm incorrect, Chase, but I think what you're petitioning for is at this point the shin angle should be vertical, right?
No, it should be
Just
pretty close to
about
vertical.
pretty
Yeah.
close. Okay. So it should be closer to vertical. And then I think what we're going to see here is that once the bar gets above his kneecap, we're going to see almost like a little double knee bend.
Hmm.
Whoop, it gets straight and then it pops back under. Yeah, so we can see it right here, basically. Oh, I went back a little too far. But whoop, right there, straight, and it's back under. This is hitching. Oh, Iron Bros Australia. Did Mick get fired? Mick is he would be the firer, not the
Yeah,
firee,
he's
I
a
don't
boss
think.
man.
Yeah, he's the boss man, dog. Um, no, Mick called me today and he was like, Alex, when did you download the because we keep all this stuff on a Dropbox. He's like, when did you download the Dropbox? And I was like, oh, just like a minute ago. I think he put on an illicit He was just a sensitive file into the Dropbox. Mick was taking nudes for someone. He put them into the Dropbox. Luckily, or sadly, I suppose, sadly, I did not see them. But if I find them, you guys will be the first to know. Actually, I'll probably send them to Chase. And then if they're of quality, if Chase agrees, that's two out of the
I'll
three
be
people.
the approving factor here.
Exactly, yeah. So that'll be 2 votes, and then we'll post it all publicly. But yeah, Mick is a musician. Yeah, he does shows. He does a lot of cool stuff like that. And he's in university right now, so he's focused on that. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so this is hitching, which I'm not a huge fan of. Generally, oh yeah, Iron Bros. We'll send him to you. Put him on your YouTube. Man, banned before 1,000 subscribers. Sorry. Chase, so with hitching, how often do you see it, and what's kind of your first step in order to get it to stop?
I usually don't see it often.
Okay.
It's just for people who have been lifting on their own, haven't really had any coaching critique, and now that the weight is heavy, they are trying to get the weight up any way possible. Kind of my go-to solutions to this. So we see the floor pull, or rather like the halfway up point to where the bar gets like right about where his kneecaps are, solid. Looks perfect. Now on the way back up, he's trying to shorten the moment arm on his back by standing up just a little bit too fast with, or rather opening up too much with the back angle. So maybe like a rack pull would help this, or just cueing, hold your knees in place a little bit longer and just pushing.
Yeah, getting the knees open. I really like the cue of pushing. One thing I've noticed is that, like, there are some people, they'll be able to pull what pounds? They'll be able to pull 440, for example, without hitching. The second they go to like 455 or so, 460, they'll start hitching. And then, frankly, like if you know that you're going to hitch on the heaviest pulls you always do, pull a little bit lighter, and then it's kind of what we say with, like, if you want to squat 315 and make it look really easy, squat 405 and make it look hard. So like if this is the technical error, because this is pretty close to a limit single for him. Like this is, I would say maybe another 10 pounds would be his absolute max. Just get stronger, and then these things should clear up. But yeah, so our sponsor is back here. I know that I accidentally clicked on Jeff Riggins. It's not our sponsor. Naked HD XYZ jerk off advice.
Is that what it means?
ADV. What does
I don't know.
ADV mean, Chase?
I don't know. Google this shit.
Advice. ADV has to mean advice.
Is that the abbreviation?
I'm assuming advanced. It
I
could be
thought it was like
advanced.
jerk off advertisement, but I don't know.
But who would be advertising themselves?
I don't know.
Let us know in the chat if this is advice, advertisement, or advanced. If it's advanced, that would be pretty cool. But this is our sponsor of the show, HDXYZ. Here we go. We have some arguments of substance. Iron Bros, he said, I've heard an argument to use straps with double overhand grip deadlifts if you're not competing to avoid imbalances and dangers of bicep tears. How important do you think it is to use or not use them? What do you think, Chase?
Me personally, I always do a double overhand strap pull. I just don't know how to strap a supinated grip. To be honest, I don't know how.
I think he's saying using straps as opposed to just a mixed grip. Like if you can't mixed grip, like he's saying, don't mix grip because it's bad. Strap.
No. I mean, if it's in a competition type setting where you have to pull something without a strap, you got to hang on to the bar any way possible, and that's where a mixed grip or a hook grip, possibly a double overhand, will come in. But I'm not too keen on this bad shit's gonna happen if you do a mixed grip. Me personally, I've mixed gripped a lot of my deadlifts, and it's been totally fine. It's mainly just how you're setting up. So meaning a bunch of the time that people tear up their bicep is that they have not taken out all the slack. So like let's take for this guy, for example, like if he were just to jerk the bar up, right, and there's a bend in his elbow right now and he has not squeezed up all the slack, that's where shit gets popped. But he's probably going to be fine because I'm assuming like he didn't post a injury video here. He's squeezing up all the slack, right? And he's just
find
pushing.
out, I guess. Yeah, so like in the phase when we cue people to push their chest up and then get tight to the bar, they're also taking the slack out of the bar. At that point, their
Mhm.
arms will straighten out 90% of the time. I'd say well over 90, excuse me. It's not too big of an issue in terms of tearing bicep. Teo, excuse me, not Teho. I think Iron Bros is implying that the mixed grip would cause the imbalance
Mhm.
as opposed to double overhead. I'm a huge fangirl for mixed grip. I love mixed grip, frankly. I find it way
Yeah, I
more
do too,
convenient than
man.
hook grip.
Fuck
Um,
the hook grip. I mean,
yeah,
I
fuck.
do it a lot more with the Olympic shit, but god damn it, like even now, like just trying to do like 495 after like pulling like let's say 350 for a clean, it just does not feel the same. It fucking hurts still.
Yeah, yeah. The wrist position's weird. Like the line of pull that you're getting with your hand changes a little bit. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan. I fangirl for mixed grip all the time. I don't think there's a huge risk of muscle imbalance because I think what you're saying is that like the deadlift is such an important part of hypertrophy in that area that it will cause some sort of dramatic shift in like mass accumulation or muscle accumulation over time. I don't think that's true really at all.
No.
And like everybody has strength imbalances and muscular imbalances, and I don't think they're really impactful for 90% of the situations. Um, yeah, I just don't think it's like if you're doing chin ups, you're probably doing some rows, you're benching, you're pressing, you're doing all that stuff. I just don't think you're going to see any sort of like meaningful difference in hypertrophy from one of your lats being slightly more long
Yeah.
in the deadlift. Um, how do you feel about these though? This is Hardy. This is also Hardy's office, by the way, everybody. This is his home office and gym.
The setup looks good. It's just now as he's pushing, he's slowly dropping his ass and then trying
Mm.
to pull with his back. Meaning, kind of similar to what we were talking with MJ here, is that he has to figure out how to push and use his legs instead of picking this up with his back.
Do you think this is a similar thing to what MJ was doing last video?
Hmm,
Kind of the push pull thing with the knees.
I didn't really see any like dip in his ass though, but he may have just figured a way to not dip his ass and just you know um, ratchet the bar up his legs.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think for this one, I would increase the toe angle. I wouldn't move your toes out. I would move your heels in. I think your feet just look a little bit awkward to me with where the
Mhm.
balance is sitting in the shoe. Um, let's watch this next one. Yeah, I think you're pulling behind the bar, man. I think these are certainly loaded on the heels. I would well, the one set of cues that I really like to use. It's hard to convey this via text, but video or in person is fine. Well, you take your shoulders and your hips at the same time. Don't just pull the shoulders up. Don't just push the hips up. You want them both coming up together, right? So as you're squeezing your chest up, you're trying to take your hips and your shoulders to the ceiling, both of them at the same exact time.
I kind of cue it like a squat sometimes, especially for like the Olympic lifts where you need to like preserve that horizontal back angle. Make your hips come up first, similar to the deadlift.
You'll because yeah, everybody will be deadlifting after they'll be squatting. So then
Mhm.
you can just use that same exact cue and they'll understand it. Yeah, that's a really good idea. We'll check out Aaron, and then we have some questions as well. This is Aaron pulling 5 bills. We'll do Iron Bros, then Lock and Key. Iron Bros, he said, I've always used mixed grip for deadlifts, never used straps, just noticing a lot of lifters using straps, also to get more weight on the deadlift by using straps. Personally, I like deads, raw, and mixed. So one of the cool things about straps is whenever you are proficient at them, you can carry the bar a lot lower in your hands. One of the ancient forbidden techniques was monkey grip. So you don't have a thumb on the bar. You're just holding the bar as deep as you can in your fingers. Let's try and get it around the door frame. Holding it like there. You're basically elongating your hand by like another inch and a half, 2 inches. If you look at really good strongmen, they will also do this. They'll have whatever the implement is down there. It's almost all hanging on the straps. So straps, you can shorten the range of motion. There's less forearm fatigue. The weight will feel a little bit lighter because you're not holding as much of it. Overall, it's a really good training tool to have straps.
Mhm.
Chase, you strap up basically almost all your top sets, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason why I've been doing that lately is just I want to save my hands for
Hmm.
the Olympic stuff. And if I didn't, which I didn't always do the Olympic lifts as frequently as I have been now, yeah, I would just always just grip it without straps, unless I was doing a bunch of volume or a weight I cannot physically hang on to like a rack pull.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So this actually ties into the next question that we had. So Bullock and Key, Jonathan, do you remember the guy who was pause squatting last time in the Wichita rack?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so he said he wasn't pausing intentionally. That was just the thing that was happening. So it's
Mm.
good that we cleared that up. But he was saying balancing starting strength or just lifting in general with a martial art impacts on recovery. And what about balancing striking versus the grappling art? This is my soapbox. Most of the clientele that I work with are doing some form of martial art. So this could be high school wrestling. This is going to be judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts, boxing, really everything under the sun. The only things that I don't have are fencing. I don't have a single fencer, even though
Does
that's
anyone
technically.
even fence anymore?
I still think it's an Olympic sport. Somebody has to fence.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think.
it's like who the fuck does it except for like Europeans?
I was going to say I don't think anybody in America fences. I think we have like two guys who show up at the Olympics for fencing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so this is a very complicated subject, and a lot of it depends on the nature of the sport that you're doing. I think this comment, let's just say this is the most popular one in America right now. So Brazilian jiu-jitsu, the impact and recovery cost of it are really low. So let's take something that's like really impactful, like Muay Thai, for example. You're going to get kicked in the legs a lot. So let's say you're in that early leg conditioning phase, and then you don't know if after practice your legs are going to feel like absolute trash. You're not going to have taken many kicks at all, or if you're going to be holding pads and checking kicks a good bit. You'll feel like trash the next day. So you're going to have to figure out a system of auto regulation, figuring out movement selection to cater towards what your practice is doing towards you. So like me, for example, I normally have practice right before this stream. I come home, I sometimes I don't take my rash guard, and then I just sit down on the computer. Um, I had such bad like neck and upper back fatigue from the previous practice ago that I decided to not go and then just lift this morning. You have to be super flexible with it, like incredibly flexible. If you go into rigid expectations in contact sports that are beating you up, you're going to realize that you should not have expectations very quickly. Like there's just not very many similar activities out there. I don't think even other sports that are like really high effort and intensity, like sprinting, for example, you can look at your programming and know the fatigue cost of sprinting 3 weeks ahead, and you can plan for it. Like you may say you're going to go practice light today, but like you know that you're not going to. One of my guys, Benny, if you're watching this, he has a huge problem with this. He's dealing with elbow tendonitis, and I'll be like, hey man, you take it easy at practice. Work on these like 4 or 5 things at practice. It'll be fine. And he'll come back and he'll be like, I did 10 live rounds. My elbow feels like shit. He was like, and it's like, yeah, you were doing 50 minutes of like at 10 level intensity work. Like, what the fuck are you doing? It's hard. It's a real problem to manage it, especially because the attitude of people who do the grappling sports, like if you're doing wrestling or judo or BJJ at a higher level, you're killing yourself constantly. You know, the thing that I like to express to people all the time is like you have to think racehorse mentality, not workhorse mentality. A lot of people think that it's like a grind. They're like, oh, I got to wake up at 4 a.m. I got to dip my balls in ice, take a cold shower, and work out. And I'm going to practice 2 times a day, and it's going to be crazy Jocko bullshit. You don't want to be the hardest working guy. You want to treat yourself like the sleek, fast racehorse. Like everything you're doing, you are in perfect condition to do it. You are never doing a single thing you don't want to do. Um, like you should come in fat, happy, well rested, in optimal conditions to perform, not like, oh, I'm going to try as hard as I can constantly and then just kill myself. That's the best advice. And then Sinclair said, he said the problem with martial arts classes, they make you do shit like push-ups and sit-ups, even air squats. Yeah, the workload, if you are competitive in martial arts, the workload and a warm-up, it's just like it's none. He said if you're in between lift days, it interferes with my rest. I'm in my 40s though. What are you doing, Sinclair? Are you doing Thai? Are you doing BJJ? Are you doing judo? What are you doing? All right. Have you been watching these? Oh, I haven't even put the deadlifts on the screen.
No, I haven't seen shit. I'm just
Oh my
sitting
god,
here.
I'm sorry. I've just been like, all right, Chase, check this out. Okay, Sinclair, you doing BJJ? Yeah, the BJJ is a really immature sport. Most of the warm ups are spent doing like mimi calisthenics as opposed to things that are like technically relevant to the sport itself. Like you should be using that for skill accumulation. So it's like in judo class during our warm up, we're doing a ton of tumbling, a ton of handstands, a ton of cartwheels, a ton of like back handsprings, all that stuff, so that we can get used to being in the air. As opposed to like BJJ, like the warm ups, I don't think like the culture of practice in America, I don't think is super developed yet, just because it's so new. How do you feel about these pulls, Chase?
Overall, not bad. Just the lockout is screaming at me. His knees are still slightly soft, like right there, bam.
Hmm.
And he's just really overdoing it with just getting his back very vertical and his shoulders are just way behind the bar.
So you
Instead
want to
of
see
standing a little bit
more at the knee right here.
exactly. So less kind of with the shoulders, it's going to be a little bit forward, and then due to the straightness of the knee.
Okay. And then what kind of cues do you use to finish this? If someone's having this, like,
Um,
they're locking at the chest, but they're not locking at the knees.
I'd make them pause and then actually forcefully, lock out their knees before setting the bar down.
Okay. All right. So this is the one that I wanted you to peek at, Chase. This is the ticket. Hmm, Boop, boop. All right. This is that same dude. So he was just pulling 500. His 1 RM is what's it called? It's probably in like the 570-ish area for the pull. Um, and then squat for him right now is in the mid 400s, 440 to 460, I would say. This is a working set at 405. Sinclair, I'm 38. I was looking at BJJ, judo, or kickboxing since our class is close to me. Um, yeah, so figure out whichever one has the best pedigree for the instructor, I would say. Like go in, see if the guy can communicate well, see if they have a class full of, like athletes, not just random Joes. Um, Make sure the people are physically fit, make sure people are competing, um, make sure it's not just like a friendly class. Unless that's what you want, I'm a judo fangirl. I would definitely recommend that. I think it's a lot more practical than BJJ, but kickboxing is cool too.
And these
How do you
aren't bad. Just I think Aaron needs to bend his knees a little bit faster. He's putting a lot of emphasis
Ooh,
about leaning over.
okay.
And just what could be causing this too is just the bar grip too. Um, since he's not the most flexible bird here, he is going to stay a little bit more inclined already just by standing up and just where the grip is. So now he's just emphasizing that, like right here, he's already horizontal or kind of horizontal, and now he's just going to finish it by just leaning over a lot, and his knees are kind of lagging behind ever so slightly. See it right there.
Yeah. Faster knees needs to start.
hmm You may just need to think about for Aaron just like dropping his ass straight down, and this may just fix that
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
holding the
I think
chest up a little bit.
one thing to notice is that, like, if you guys just are watching the rogue plates on his, this is kind of how my indicator when people are finishing it with their chest. Whenever the plates are rolling backwards, so like they're spinning toward you, if you're standing behind the lifter, that's generally a good indicator that they're finishing with the chest. So like Chase is saying, squatting straight down, that's probably a really good cue for this, for sure.
hmm I
Hmm.
see a lot of people that are kind of like this. I think just due to again the flexibility and the shoulder extension, some people just cannot fucking get that bar down there, and they fight
uh,
with keeping the bar where it is and standing tall.
okay. This one is from Shahan, which is just
Sean
a
or Shahan?
no, Shahan.
Shahan.
Maybe his parents dislike him, and they were like, "We're gonna say it, Sean, but then fuck you up with Shahan." Yeah, Sinclair. Yeah, yeah. Starting the grappling sports was, I would say, the most productive move in my entire life, hands down. Ooh, interesting. This is a tight guy.
hmm
He is just a stiff person.
I think. Oh, it is Shahan. Uh,
Yeah.
this is the
Uh,
first. So Shahan, I think his heels are a little bit too wide, so I can see basically like
okay.
no angle to his toe. I
Yeah.
like to see the heels in a little bit more. More effort about holding the knees out a little bit harder, and it's going to be easier too without such a wide heel. Bringing that in, and then just go down and touch the pins almost, just almost physically rest the bar on the pins without totally relaxing.
Yeah, a toe angle. I was going to call it the toe angle. I think you may be afraid of hitting the pins because it's like you're stopping you're stopping above them consistently, and it doesn't seem like a very set stopping point. Um, I think the bar is too high for sure because what we're seeing later on is it rolling up your neck. So it's like you're trying to drive your butt up, you're driving your hips up out of the bottom, which is good, but then the bar is shifting up. So it's like that thing. The elbows are popping under, your wrists are in extension, they're wobbling around a little bit. That's generally a good indicator the bar position isn't great. I think we see it the most here. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, the bar's popping up a little bit. I would widen your grip. I would, let the bar get a little bit deeper on your back. I would move it down maybe about half an inch at this point. And then I would think more about keeping your chest up. Like, don't lean over to get to depth because I think what's happening is that you're getting so leaned over, you're saying there's no way I can possibly get deeper. We need you to get deeper with your knees. Like, we need your knees to be more closed. So if you're standing, they're really open. If you pull your ankle to your butt, they're really closed. We need your knees to close more. You're leaning over more than enough. So I would
Hmm.
focus on keeping the chest up, sitting your butt straight down, and I think the grip changes should definitely help that. I think this is. If do you think these are 45s? They look like 45s, right?
I don't know. At
This
that,
could be
the
275.
numbers. I thought the numbers on the screen after it said his name was like 335, but I don't know. I do not see 335 happening.
Oh no, this is just
Yeah, yeah, just
that's just a code that gets put on in Dropbox.
gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I don't see it happening
No,
either. Yeah, but yeah, hopefully that helps, Shahan. Shahan. We got another one from Mike Finn. Do you remember Mike Finn, Chase?
no.
We'll see if you remember him when you see him.
I just know people from like their setup.
Exactly. Like, yeah. Like what your home gym looks like.
Yeah,
You have a vast catalog of home gyms in your brain.
but even now I don't remember him. I think maybe because we didn't like Mick on the stream whenever we made fun of like his like hotel gym setup.
Which one? Mixed setup?
No, no, this guy's.
Oh yeah, he was the one who had that really weird, interesting top-down camera view. He had a really rounded back on a squat, if you remember that one. Yeah.
Not really.
Okay. Bolt lock and key don't yeah, hang out. I have some more resolution to what you're saying. I disagree with some of that as well. Um, here we go, guys. Here we go, boys. Online strips without clothing. If you were concerned that your strips were going to be clothed, don't worry.
Don't worry at all.
These are without clothes. How do you feel about these polls, man?
So this is kind of like the opposite of what everyone else has been doing, where he's kind of using a lot of legs and not really coupling with that last little pull of just standing up. So he's a little bit low with his hip height. I want to see it just a tiny bit higher,
Mm.
setting his back, and then making your shoulders come straight up. You're leaving them out over the bar a little bit too long. Like this would be a pretty nice clean, but this is a deadlift. We got to get as vertical as fast as possible here.
Mm-hmm. I think the finish is a little soft too. Like you're leaving your
Mm.
crotch a little bit too far behind the bar. I would push your crotch into the bar to finish, and all the stuff Chase said. This is vital information. Jeff said he checked the campsite a couple streams ago. Not worth it. Do not besmirch our sponsor on the stream, Jeff. They're paying for Chase's engagement rings.
I haven't seen any of them yet, but I'm gonna leave them in good faith.
uh, yeah, I think you're getting on your heels. Like we can see it at the top. If you watch Mike's toes, whenever he's just about to finish, they're popping up off the ground a little bit.
Hmm.
I would get more forward, for sure at the finish. But this is good information to see. Okay, all right. Satisfied with Mike Finsdale. Any parting shots for Mike, Chase?
No, man, just put like a poster of someone cool lifting on your wall so it doesn't look like a hotel gym.
Yeah, it's a little sparse. It's yeah,
It's bland.
yeah, it's a little bland. We got a few from a gentleman named Jeremy G. What do you want to see first? Do you want to see bench, squat? I
Is
guess
that
we'll
it?
go.
Just a bench and a squat?
Yeah, we have two angles for it though. Well, I guess we'll do bench first because we just haven't seen a bench in a minute.
No, we haven't.
Mm-mm. Jeff Riggins, thank you for checking out the CAM website, by the way. That's very kind of you. So I'll talk to Bolt and Key while this is happening. Bolt Lock and Key, you're already pretty fluffy. You'll understand that whenever you are doing tasks like martial arts, that having that giant like flak jacket of fat around your torso is not helpful. Um, in some contexts it is, but the contexts are very few. What I would recommend is to not focus on eating through the problem. You have enough eating still left on you. You will get in shape. You will lose weight just from that. Like I would participate in everything you possibly can. But what I'm saying is that the flexibility has to come from your weightlifting when you're lifting in the gym, not your time of practice. Because you'll be so new that whenever your coach says it's like, hey, you're going to do 50 throws and 50 falls today, you're like, okay, I'm going to do that, but you need to be more flexible with, am I going to put 335 on the bar or 325 on the bar? You have to be more flexible with that stuff. You'll figure out the working volume targets. And then in terms of the take it easy stuff, I would say don't intentionally overstress yourself because you've only been lifting so far. And even if you add in, let's say, 2 2-hour practices a week, that's 4 hours of cardio that you're not used to. So, like, grade into it for sure. How's this bench going from Jeremy G?
And I think Jeremy G has his straps a little bit too high because he has not really touched his chest on basically any rep.
Yeah, he's touching just barely his shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get a lot of people who are like, they think there shouldn't be a sizable touch or impact on their chest?
No, it's either like they do not hit it or they bounce it. It's there's no gray area.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be just a teaching thing about, or maybe it's just kind of like what they think the bench should be. Some people will literally, they will graze their shirt, or they will just try and use their rib cage to move the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a.
I mean, I like the cue of just touching your shirt if someone's really
Mhm.
fucking up the contact, but if you physically do not feel like with your skin of your chest, the indent of your shirt in the bar,
Mhm.
um, that this is not a complete rep.
Yeah, I'll physically, like, I'll just on someone's arm or something, I'll just take my finger and I'll just press into them just lightly enough to deform
Mhm.
their flesh, and I'll be like, it should press into you. You should feel it move.
Yep.
It should move your fat around, move your skin around. Do you think this should be wider, or do you think? How do you feel about the grip here? Did you say that already?
No, his forms are vertical, or rather perpendicular to the floor. Um, I would probably like to see maybe the touch happen a little bit higher, but again, with the straps, it's kind of giving them that artificial touch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it may just be a little bit low. Yeah. Yeah, you can do a higher touch point by bending the elbow more. You can widen it out. Those
Hmm.
are two solutions for the same thing. And then we'll check out the other angle here. This is a very uh, Instagramian angle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so sometimes I'll have to get this angle from people to check their like grip width and things like that, and I'll always have a hard time describing it. And I'll be like, just point the camera at your dick, like point
Yeah.
it right in between your knees. I always feel bad saying that. Yeah, you're right, man. These forearms are spot on
Yeah,
the
he's
bottom.
just like he's touching every single fucking rep to the straps.
Yeah. Yeah, I've run into some other people, other hard-headed people who have refused to take the straps down even a little bit. Like they're not helping you; they're only detracting from it. Like there's nothing those straps are giving you.
See, I don't understand the straps too, because like one, they're not rigid, so like the lowest point is where the bar is going to be. So like if you fail this, you're fucked still.
Yes, yeah. It's like whenever you slide out from the side, it won't come down with you, I suppose. But it's like you
I
can't really
guess
roll it on the thing. Like it's
no.
like. Yeah, straps for bench, I think, have to be really inclined. Like you have to have one side significantly higher than the other side so that you can kind of like get it going there, almost away from your head. But like, I'm
Yeah,
just not the biggest fan. This guy has short arms, man.
he does. He has some T-Rex arms.
He's gonna have a big bench one day. Jeremy G.
Just keep at it, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Let us
go
know whenever you get
full
that 500, man.
IPF style. Move your hands out to the edge right there.
Grab a
All right.
slingshot, maybe 2.
Yeah, slingshot black. All right, so we're gonna see this gentleman's squat now. If you had to guess, how do you think the squat is gonna be, man?
Fucking immaculate.
You think
Just
so?
textbook.
Okay, all right. Well, don't let us down, Jeremy. We'll see how it goes. Chase has very high hopes for you, Jeremy. No belt, by the way. We're going beltless, boys.
Fuck it, man. He's got it.
Oh, he has quite the setup too. He's at what, 145? I think he's like 155 or so.
Maybe.
Chase, were you right?
I was if our model was bouncing off the knees and going really deep.
So close. All right, how would you recommend Jeremy fix this?
All right, Jeremy, you're gonna have to lean over a little bit more. So point your ass back to the wall behind you, and give yourself a tempo here. So 2 seconds are the eccentric or the downward portion, and then come back up. You're giving the sense of coming back up whenever your hamstrings have touched the back of your calves. That is not what needs to happen. Your knee angle kind of needs to remain roughly open. So some area in between the calf and the hamstring. Like I've used this cue before. Like imagine there's an egg right behind your knee. Don't crack the egg, and just lean over, and basically treat it like you're shitting in the woods.
You know, I've done a lot of shitting in the woods. I
Does it look
don't know if
nothing like
that
that?
cue means anything to me.
Granted, yes, I don't know because I've never pooped
Have
in the
you
woods,
done a
so
lot
I
of
don't know.
pooping in the woods,
Maybe,
Chase?
yeah, maybe I need to start pooping in the woods and to help refine that cue.
Yeah, I think this is the yeah.
Because I always tell people, because again, they're like, I don't know. Well, I'm like, look, would you rather have poo splattered on the back of your calves or on the leaves and bushes behind you? And then they're like,
All right.
oh, okay, that
And
makes
then she's
sense.
like, "Is your poop splattering in places? Is it a projectile stream that splatters?" Like,
Hey, man, you never know.
go
You
to
don't
the
want that
doctor,
fecal
dog.
matter on the back of your calves.
Yeah, I would just pretend you're like a homeless guy at the 7-Eleven bathroom and you're just painting the wall. That's what's going on.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're in the New York subway, the metropolis, the best city in the country. And then you're just painting the walls. Um yeah, so this is interesting. Sometimes you'll get beginners or new people. Oh, it's interesting for Jeremy's demographic, who are mobile and then very limber, which is great. But then you'll have to deal with a different set of problems than you normally have to. So normally it's like, okay, the guy's 5 inches above depth, doesn't know how to set his back. Jerry's his great back extension in this. He's getting super low, so that's wonderful. I would put the belt on just to help you get a little bit tighter. It'll help you lean over more, I think. And the cue I really like for this is put your pecs down between your knees. Like physically shove your pecs down. I think when people say aim your nipples at the floor, that can kind of change. You can change the joint angles, but I don't really think it's going to help them physically move their chest. In this case, Jeremy's case, he needs to physically get way more inclined.
Hmm.
So driving your pecs down between your knees, driving your pecs down to the floor, I think is a good one. That should bring the hips up as the chest goes down. I think that'll be a happy medium for you. There's one thing I will say about this unrack procedure that he's doing right here. So look at how. So this position right here, it's not super flattering, unfortunately, but a ton of people will get into this position and it drives me crazy. They will get their hands on the bar and they will push past it. They'll go like 3 inches below where they want to, and then they'll pull it back. And then there you go. Now he's fine. You could just go to that position in the first place, because it's like if we want our upper back to be as tight as possible, right? If you go in, you get really loose, and then you try to get tight from here to here, it's not going to happen. You can get tight by just having a stiff arm, pushing into it, I think this makes for a really loose upper back position that I'm not a huge fan of.
I think, yeah, and also to solve that too, just bring in the grip a little bit.
Yeah, man. Just,
So
yeah.
he physically cannot get that low.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a problem with flexibility at all, Jeremy.
No.
And I'm sure this guy's deadlift is fine, right? You think so?
I think so. I think he's just doing a lot of back extension to pick this thing up.
Okay.
Do you have
Let's
a
see if he
deadlift of him?
actually. I mean, he sent in a few. I'm just trying to see if there's actually in here or not. No, that's Shahan again. No, I think we got 2 benches, two squats, and we have hard gains in here as well, which I believe is Johnny G.
Do you think Johnny G and then Jeremy G, do they know
You
each
think they
other?
know each other?
I think they're cousins.
Man, if they like traded attributes, that would be great. I think. Because fucking hard gains here is stiff as a board. He's had such a hard time with this squat.
Well, I mean,
Same
he
thing
has
with
to
the
live up to
deadlift.
his
You know, he's
name.
like, oh, I'm constantly tearing my hamstring in half because of
Well,
how
that
tight
he
I
has to
am.
live up to his name, dude. Hard gains.
I know it's constantly hard. Did you see Rip's Always Hard shirt? Did you see that? Starting
Yeah,
strength always hard. Oh man, are they selling those?
I hope so.
If they are, if you see that, let me know. I'm gonna get like 10 of them. All right, he'll get there. There it is. Okay. So is he at depth, Chase?
On a few of those, maybe. So right there, no.
That was
He's
the last one. We'll
borderline.
check in the middle. Oop. Yeah, so that one certainly.
hmm
Okay.
He's between borderline and then at depth.
Yeah.
There's not really a consistent point here, and I think the factor is just because he's loading the fuck out of his hips. Like if you look at his knees, they literally do not move at all,
Yeah.
which is fine if your knees are fucked up. But we're gonna give you the benefit of the doubt here and say that your knees are strong. You got to put them a little bit more forward, and this is gonna help you hit depth more consistently and not be so bent over in the bottom.
Yeah, I think one big thing here is the head position, man. So it's like we'll look at this again. So whenever you're just hanging out at the top, John, you are just jamming your head forward. So like I always say, like if I'm standing behind you and I can't see your head, you fucked up the upper back position. You're cranking your elbows up because you've jammed your head forward. Just stand up normally, man. Just stand up normally. You'll be fine. And then once you descend, look at what happens to your head. You pick your head up. Okay. Like get in that upper back position in the first place. And then once you're a little bit more vertical, the knees will go more forward and you can stop doing what Chase is saying, where it's like all hip. It's all hip,
Mhm.
man. Yeah. And I think that mirror's fucking you up too. Take that mirror away,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. I mean, you can leave it there. Just turn the clips around. Yeah. All right. Last one. Second to last. Yeah. Some of these are depth, some of these are not. How do you feel about the hip drive versus chest coming out of the bottom, Chase?
Man, the hips look solid out of the bottom, and then just
Okay.
halfway up, it's the
It's
chest
all
because
chest.
again, there he cannot sustain that back angle anymore, and he has to get pretty vertical pretty fast in
Mm-hmm.
order to balance the load. Instead of him being a little bit more vertical in the bottom due to his knees being more forward, and he's better equipped to drive his hips all the way through the range of motion.
That's a really good way to say that. Like you need to allow yourself to use the suggested technique. Like you need to put yourself in a position where you can use the hip drive. Um, all right, so that's it for Jean G. Chase, how do you feel about that question, man?
I'll read it. Cool dude 70. What was the one again? It was
It's cool dude 70 minus 1. It's cool
yeah,
dude
that's right. That's right.
69.
Cool dude 70 minus 1. I currently am doing,
Uh,
which is means currently I'm doing a heavy slash light upper slash lower split where I press twice a week. How do you guys program pressing 4 times a week without overtraining that movement? Thanks. One thing, it's pretty hard to overtrain the press unless you have some wonky shoulders. And if you are that type of person, you will know how much is too much and how you feel on a daily basis. But if you're doing the typical, let's say, volume and then intensity, where like you're doing maybe a 3x5, a 4x5 one day, singles, a set of five, triples, whatever on the intensity, start plugging in some pin presses. Usually, pin presses help get you past that sticking point in the range of motion where you'll kind of see on the intensity day. For example, if you're doing some heavy singles and you start, failing around your forehead, maybe the nose area, I'm going to put a bar in the rack and we're going to set it up to that height, and you're going to press and do an overload movement in that configuration. The next would be maybe another pin press day to where you're alternating the height, where it's over your head and you're just working on locking out a bunch of heavy shit. But maybe not doing as much volume with it, or some other exercise selection, maybe an LTD, some dips. Just again, what best fits you meaning like can your shoulders handle it? If so, what is your goal here? Is it to get stronger? Then we're gonna have to do heavier shit with the press.
Mm-hmm. Chase, do you recognize this lifter? Who is this?
Nah, man, I don't know who this is.
Who the fuck is this guy? Are these wraps? Are these knee wraps?
Yeah.
Okay, how are you feeling about those, man?
Sometimes my knees get kind of bothersome. Sometimes they don't. Like today,
Okay,
um, what did I do? I did three heavy singles at 160, and then I was wrapless until 140, and then 140, just kind of doing a bunch of power cleans will kind of aggravate my quad tendonitis that I
okay.
have. So I was like, fuck it, just kind of take my mind off of it.
Wrapping it up, man.
Yep.
Yeah, cool dude 69. So you're saying that you're going from pressing 2 times a week to you want to press 4 times a week. I would recommend stopping in at 3 times a week
Hmm.
before you do 4 times. You may just not need it. Chase has a really good article on press specialization. What is the title of that one?
Like upper body specialization. I don't know.
All right, I'm
Fuck, I don't.
finding it.
I wrote the thing. I don't even know.
I know, yeah. Just like Chase Press Lot article. What's it called? All right, hold on. Chase Lindley, starting strength. Bam. You're in a lot of videos. Oh, here we go. So it's called upper body specialization. Who, what, when? We all know the why. The why is you just want to get jacked and tan. So
Mhm.
we know the why. But Chase has a really good article on it. Check it out. It's on the Starting Strength website. I would say try to press 3 times a week. Determine if your press is being throttled by, let's say, like technique handling these heavier loads. You just feel like you can't groove a single in. Gonna have to do more singles, more pin presses, things like that. Is your bench really close to your press and your bench isn't that high? You're like, oh man, I'm benching 265 and my press is 205. Maybe consider getting your bench up to like 365 and then see where your press falls on the backside of that. Figure out if it's like, hey, it's absolute muscle mass. Like I'm 170 pounds and I'm pressing 215 and I feel like I can't get any more of this with the amount of meat that I have on my body. Increase your body weight, do your sets, do your reps, do all that stuff, get your body weight up to figure that out. It's like the when portion of Chase's article is very important. Like when should I actually decide to be an upper body specialist? When should I decide to do this press specialization? It's very important. But one thing I would always say is that it's hard to overtrain the movement just because it's so relatively light. But you need to make sure that whatever the point of failure is doesn't become exacerbated. So like if you're always losing it because you get like some elbow tendonitis and your elbows get cranky, adding in a bunch more pressing is just going to make you hit that wall faster. That's why Chase was saying add a dip, add an LTE, maybe add some more benching, close grip benching, something like that. It's because it's like if you have a problem where you run into a training threshold with the overhead press, that training threshold probably isn't going to change. Like if you do more than like 12 sets of overhead pressing a week, your shoulder gets cranky. It's probably going to stay at a similar threshold with that for the foreseeable future. It may be 14 2 years from now, but no one cares. Add in that other stuff. There's a lot of considerations there for sure. So you're still jumping forward, Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been solved in 2 days.
This was a while ago.
I know this was a while ago. We got another video though.
Kind of ish. It's still there, man. I was supposed to press yesterday, but it just did not fucking happen. It was terrible. But I still think the big issue here was at this time, I was not really getting underneath the bar and pulling myself down into position. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of being late with getting underneath the bar and it's slamming me forward, causing me to then walk around.
Have you considered that you're too jacked? Is that the problem?
Uh, a little bit. I just
Maybe you're
can't
just too
fucking.
cool, man.
No, it sucks because like being strong does help me in this situation because I would
Mm-hmm.
not be able to hang on to this snatch in this basically technique with me slamming my chest forward and me walking around. I would rather not do this shit, but again, it's hard.
Yeah, if this was a you just throw the snatch up and then leave and don't catch it, like if this was like the keg toss equivalent of a snatch,
That'd
oh
be
my god.
perfect. Yeah.
Dude, that'd be crazy. Yeah, go. Have you try it? Maybe just go take this stuff to the parking lot one day, and then
To see how high I can get
just
it.
wham that shit behind you. Oh man, we got the Prowler. We got some dog toys. How
Hmm.
often are you on the bike, man? Are you getting on the bike at all?
I warm up every now and then with it, but
Okay.
I have a guy who has some pretty jacked up knees. I make him ride the bike for about 8 minutes to kind of get everything all moving.
Hell yeah.
It
Nice.
hurt. It hurts so much to squat, but
Yeah.
um, we're doing some pulls and some prowler work too every now and then.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Pinecone King, he's got a question for you, Chase. He says, I noticed Chase taking time to wiggle his feet around in this video. I have a tendency to be OCD about foot symmetry or feeling during my setup, which gets annoying between reps. Any thoughts for the king of pine cones, the Pinecone King?
Me personally, Pine Code King is that I actually start with the bar a little bit forward, and then I roll the bar and get myself into the proper position. I've just always done that. No one said, "Hey, quit doing that" at a young age. I could just kind of feel where I need to be. Now, granted, if this is happening to you whenever it's real heavy, yeah, this is an issue. At that point, you kind of just need to get set up and go. Whatever happens, happens. But I have a feeling like you're not going to be, like your lead foot's 3 inches out in front of you and the back legs just, way off to the side. If that's the case, then you definitely got to take the weight down and just solve this. But everyone does not line up symmetrically as much as they try to put as much effort into it. Sometimes I found myself squat some heavy ass weights with like my foot is an inch behind me sometimes. Again, it's just because I cannot handle the whip of the bar whenever I take it out. It's just you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, Pinecone, it's a little bit caring less and also realizing that like if you do have a foot backwards, you have likely tilted your whole thing. You're no like you're not orthogonal or to the rack or the platform. A lot of people will think that if you lift in like a tilted configuration on a platform, so it won't work. The platform will stop working. The lifting police will come and shoot you. If you have like a foot 1 inch in front of the other foot, you've likely just tilted the whole thing. The bar is likely tilted too. Like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Same thing with the squat, especially the squat more than the deadlift. Like if you set up with 1 foot a little bit backwards because you had a hard walkout, it's really fine. Like that portion, that side of the bar will be a little more backwards. Um, the only time I would really care about it, I think, like if you do this with your grip for some reason, like if you're noticing you're pressing and you have one hand half an inch out to the other side, that'll of course be a problem. Um, but I don't think on the squat or deadlift, it's you will be doing such an egregious error that it'll actually matter. Like Chase said, like you're not going to have 1 foot 3 inches in front of the other one. It's not going to
Mhm.
happen. And then two more questions for the boy, for the man himself. The forward stuff only happening at minimal-ish loads, Chase. Just curious.
No, so my best snatch to date is still 132, and this is 120 in the video. About 120, it gets pretty forward. Everything else I can somewhat manage, maybe like a slight forward tendency, but I'm not going and walking with the bar. It's just I'm maybe landing a little bit forward.
Just getting your
Um,
calf work in, man.
yeah, so what you guys are seeing is there's a loop in the bar path caused by my technique. What I'm thinking it is that whenever you see me on the jump, I bring my hips to the bar instead of just pulling this in a straight line, causing me to kind of fuck the bar out in place instead of making the bar travel in as straight as line as possible.
Yeah,
And
we
then
had an episode on this. It was analyzing Chase's snatch.
mhm,
There's a few theories on it in the greater weightlifting community. If someone is pushing the bar out in front, you can start with the bar a little bit more in front. So, like what Chase is hypothesizing is that the forward movement of his hip is moving or displacing the bar, and let's say horizontally as opposed to vertically. If the bar is farther away to start, that hip movement will be less relatively impactful. So some people do that. Other people will cue jumping backwards more. It's a complicated
mhm.
issue. It certainly is.
And then for Teo's question, yeah, I actually overhead squat once a week. And what did I do the other day? Last Thursday, I overhead squatted 150 for 2 reps. So,
150 for a double. That's pretty big,
mhm.
man.
If only I could snatch it,
Oh
That's the
my
fucked up
god.
part.
uh, what's the most you've ever unracked on an overhead squat? Have you ever just tried
I
north of
can't.
150 just for fun?
Um, No, I think that was the heaviest. So the way I unrack this is that I actually have to start out in like a high bar position and actually jump the thing up there.
Oh,
I
for
don't
real?
have
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any blocks or anything kind of supporting the weight overhead to where I can just grab onto it and then take it out. It's
Okay.
me physically putting it up over there and then trying to stabilize it and squat it down.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Um, man, that's a rough setup.
Yeah, it sucks, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
yep.
We've covered most of the things. The one thing we didn't cover, and I think this is interesting. I want to get. I want to see maybe we can get Will Morris on here, Nick D'Agostino, someone like that, about like when should you go and see a physical therapist? Like I have an ouchie. What do I do about the ouchie? Um, yeah, I wouldn't. I really want that episode to happen. Who would you want on here for that, Chase? Anybody in particular?
Man, definitely one of those two guys. I mean, they're all fucking incredibly smart about this.
Hmm.
Um, Really, any one of them. Will Morris did a recent one with Ray about his cervical fusion.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that.
D'Agostino, I don't know if he just wants to do this type of stuff. He's kind of like secluded, like in his own little realm, and he doesn't really like to show his face too much on videos.
I'll
But again,
ask,
he
man.
he that dude's a genius. They
Hmm.
definitely have some unique insights on this.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see if we can get our hands on for number three. Seeing a PT. For what purpose? Why on earth you would go and talk to a medical professional? We didn't cover the bench too much. We may revisit that. We talked about training blocks. We Stephen Louis back. Talked about balancing recovery with sport. I think we covered everything. Um, any parting shots for everybody, Chase?
Um, just hope you guys are doing good in all your lifts. Um, Stay strong.
Stay strong, and then we're going to put this up here. So it's going to look like it's a response from Mark Ripito. So it's going, Mark Ripito, you're thinking too hard about this. Immediately into Naked HDXYZ online strips for that clothing. If you want to find Chase, you can do so at Chase Lindley on his backup account at Chase_Lindley. I do online coaching. Chase does as well. You can find me at my website. And if you want to get videos on the show, like we've been doing, you can email support@strength.club. And that's it. Thanks everybody for watching.